Some people believe they don't invest because they are not rich. Other people, such as financial planners like myself, believe that people are not rich because they don't invest. Investment is a function of time in long time horizon. Time makes your investment grow, not necessarily the right or appropriate or better type of investment will determine that, which is why allocation is important with diversification. The cycles of the economy are not the same as the cycles in the markets, included stock markets, financial markets, however you want to call them, or any specific business markets. See, rich is not even a financial definition. It's not a financial term. It's a measure of how you feel about your life. So it's a subjective sensation or perception, judgment. You are analyzing if you think your life is good when you're saying how rich you are or are not, or want to be or don't want to be. What is a financial definition? Is wealth, and that is the amount of time you can live with the same standard without having to work for the income. Think about that. Wealth is a measurement of time, and that one can be correlated to finance, to investment, to money, because when you are alive, you spend money. So the longer you are alive, the more money you're going to need. You can continue working. Or maybe if you don't want, maybe if you want to live longer, then you work. Then you have to substitute your income. If you think your public pensions or even your work pension is going to be the main pillar of your retirement, think again. Chances are, if you work to have your own capital invested, your own pool of money, even if that in the end turns out to be a bit shy of your needs for income, at least it's going to be almost enough. And then workplace pension and public pension will complement it, will be an added bonus, an extra breath. That's what, looking back at households in North America and in other continents and countries, have shown over and over again. If you get to the end of your work capacity and your public pension is not good enough, which is the reality for majority of retirees. It becomes very clear they should have not necessarily earned more in life, but put more money aside and invested it throughout decades of compounding growth. Even if they get a life insurance benefit from someone who passed and left them a pile of money, you cannot make that grow considerably in the short time. You need years and years, maybe decades for that. The future value of money depends more on that money having a future, being untouched for a longer time. So if you're going to have a lot of time where you don't need to work to have your standard of living continuing into your old age, it means you have to save and invest earlier, also more, but especially earlier. Your first, therefore your prior, should be invest in your future and spend the rest. Basically, that's how you stop relying on external, uncontrollable things like the economy, in many markets, in any cycles, in any conditions, any investments, any funds, any companies, any leaders, any parties, any inflation. You have to create your own separate reality, detached from that as much as possible, and the only way is to build your own reserve. Invest in your own future. Build it, knowing that the longer it grows, the more it will grow. So think again. If you don't invest, you're not gonna get rich. So how can you stay rich if you don't get rich first? Oh, then you think you need to spend like a rich person to have the lifestyle of a rich person. That's a bit uncautious, because if you're not rich, why you want to live like you are? Also remember, richness is not defined by what you earn or how you spend. It's not defined by consumption or purchasing. It's defined by the meaning and the perception of how purposefully or fully are you living. So if you are committed to have a decent life now, covering your needs, knowing that you're building a much richer future for longer, where actually you will be able to buy time for dimes on the dollar, for just cents, because you're paying in advance, you're investing early. That's such a relief. That's what people who don't panic have done. That's what people who don't panic are doing. You don't need to be born wealthy, rich, a successor, an inheritor, a trust fund kid. Your family members don't need to have lots of companies and big businesses that they're going to leave to you, or even any property. Does it help? Yes. But then again, richness is not a measure of the money you make or the money you spend. It's your savings rate, not the rate that a bank will pay you for your savings. Not that, not the interest rate on your savings account. Savings rate is how much of your current earnings are you setting aside for the future and investing, making it grow. That's a much smaller reality for you to control as a habit. Human beings are creatures of habit. Receive your next paycheck and first of all, invest a bit in your future. If you don't know in what to invest or how to invest, you seek an advisor, a person who you trust enough to help guide you. And remember, it's for you, for your life, for your circumstances, for your preferences, not theirs, not the market's, because it's for your future. Don't be afraid. The biggest risk is not doing it early. Then your money will not grow. Then you will always need more and more and more and more to have equivalent growth, because you're going to have less years for the growth to compound. That will put you in risky situations because you're going to be desperate and you're going to need big results fast. That's how you get into bad deals. If you want to do it and keep your cool, sleep in peace, you just do it early, then you don't need to run all the risk. It's self-fulfilling prophecy based on habits, based on behaviors, and a bit on the history, the measured facts repeated over decades in investment markets with several years of bad results across the board. Several, sometimes in a row. It's not guaranteed, but it's what people have always been doing. I'm not selling you or convincing you that right now you have to buy an investment. I'm just explaining to you that you will not be rich if you don't invest.